Hey everyone, welcome to another CGT YouTube video. Now I took around 2 weeks off just so that I can think about what to talk about. Because I already talk about my techniques and art theory on my main CGT packages, which of course are the cost of a cup of coffee. Links are down below if you're curious. So I figured the YouTube videos would be very good to talk about art topics which might not be techniques, theory, that sort of thing, but will most certainly help others. I'm going to give my input on the age-old question: is art school worthwhile? I know it's probably the most overdone question to answer thing on the internet, but hopefully some of my views will be helpful to determining what you might want to do. And if you are already in art school, perhaps you can learn a thing or two when it comes to how I approached it. So I want to preface by saying that I am from Canada, so education here is a lot cheaper than a lot of places, especially in America. So is art school worthwhile? In my personal experience, it was, and I'll give you my perspective on it. Coming out of high school, I really didn't know much about arts. I started doing art seriously when I was around 17 and 18. So I was always a late bloomer when it comes to that. My extent of learning art was literally going on Naruto forums and just learning off from other artists who were, of course, into anime. So for me, I didn't know where to start. Art school was a really good way of giving structure to my life. For someone like me who really didn't know where to start when it comes to art fundamentals and such, art school was really helpful. So for anyone curious, of course, I did go to Sheridan College for classical animation, which is sort of a far cry from my illustrative career so far. But animation was a really good way of teaching me how to draw technically. It was always going to be a great base for me, no matter where I'm going. And for the cost at the time, it was pretty darn good. Now, for anybody curious, it averaged around $7,000 Canadian per year when I went from 2009 to 2013. Of course, I want to mention that the 4 years definitely did not teach me enough to become the professional I am right now. So a lot of people would say, oh, they're self-taught and such, but ultimately every single artist would have to be self-taught because there's just a lot of concepts that are way too specialized for art schools to get into. And a big part of it is, of course, finding your own style as well, which comes from just getting work experience outside of school. School, in general, is a great way to learn the fundamentals, which are universal, but other than really asking teachers after classes and talking to your peers, you're not going to be able to discover yourself. And that might be a good thing, because when you are starting out, especially at my level, when I started at 17 to 18 years old, I didn't know anything. So for me to get into style and personal development, that sort of thing was not necessary back then. So I would say yes, it was worthwhile for the cost that I paid for it. Now, this gets into the question: if you are paying maybe 10 times that much, which is pretty fairly common if you're in the States, is that worth it? If you told me I had to pay 10 times the amount for the type of learning I got, then no. But I would imagine that the schools in America might be better especially since a lot of them are fairly close in proximity to big studios like Disney. So if you're looking to get connections for those studios, you'll have a much easier time, given that you are going to be able to maybe get an internship base from your school and that sort of thing. But ultimately, I would imagine that your skills would have to be taught through work experience as well. So don't expect school to be the miracle teacher that will just give you all the skills you need. I always remember a quote that a mentor taught me, and that is, there's a difference between school and education. And what you put in school is going to be rewarded. And a lot of people I've even seen around me who weren't as hardworking, they might not take as much from school as someone who puts a lot of time in their work. So again, it goes back to the idea that school is not going to be your miracle worker. And it's going to pertain to any resources you find online, that sort of thing as well. Don't expect any tutorial, any school to give you exactly what you need. You have to put your work in it. But I would say that school was very helpful for the younger version of me, and it created memories and friends that I will never forget. So for the final part of the answer, I would like to talk about the idea of the degree or the diploma that you get. So in 10 years, or 10 plus years by now, time flies, of my work in many different industries. So I've worked in video games, film, animation, board games, card games, graphic novels, comics, that sort of thing. I never had one client who asked me for my education. Now, of course, I do put Sheridan College as my alumni, but generally speaking, nobody cares. So when it comes to that, I believe the degree and diploma does not matter. It doesn't matter what school you come out of. What really matters is the skills that you get from it. Heck, if you are able to be disciplined and self-teach yourself with all the resources online nowadays, nobody would care where you come from. I remember going to a Pixar lecture with Robert Kondo and Dice Sasumi, and they talked about how there are electricians who started working in Pixar. Those who just self-taught themselves and just worked another job while doing so, and they come out fine because, of course, studios don't care where you come from. You could be a plumber for all they care, as long as you somehow have the skills. I feel a lot of people kind of overemphasize the importance of the degree and diploma, and it really doesn't matter. Ultimately, you're just going to be showing your portfolio, and whatever works is going to work. Some people respond to structured education a lot better, and some people need to be free-flowing and they need to have the freedom of just self-teaching yourself. But in the end, I feel like every single artist would be an amalgamation of all the resources they've been given or have access to, and they just give their own flares to how they work, and to each their own. So hopefully that answers the very ancient question that every single generation of artists would ask about. The summary is, don't worry about it too much. If you intuitively feel that you need art school, just go for it. And of course, do your research about the schools you are going to. And if you feel like something is wrong, then feel free to drop out whenever, or just don't go to college, because you'll find your way if you're passionate enough. So thank you for watching, and hopefully you learned something from this mini lecture thing. I'll be doing more of these, of course, so stay tuned. I'll try my best to just update at least once a week, but it's been hard due to my client work. So hopefully I'll see you next time.